Smiley face equals brain damage. Doge equals clown. Skull equals oops, I accidentally assassinated someone. What do these all have in common? Someone might say that they're all emojis, and they would be very surprisingly correct. However, if one dog speaker will come to the conclusion that these are all representations of abstract concepts, aside from a message by which we alleviate our common inability to communicate directly. Today I'm going to use the help of some of these wonderful emojis, exploring the history of the emoji, describing the popularity of the emoji, and finally, last but certainly not least, analyzing its linguistical power and looking back to its beginnings. Well, first, who made the emoji? The answer is Japanese interface designer Shigetaka Kurita, very handsome young man. Kurita worked on the world's first pictographic emoji, the heart. As time progressed, Kurita completed 176 more original emojis on a 12 times 12 grid. Talk about hard work. Kurita's emojis gradually came to international acclaim and began being used widely. In 2010, the Unicode Consortium allocated unique numbers to Kurita's emojis, making them assimilable between different devices and operating platforms. In 2011, Apple, not the munchy Apple, but the foamy and play video games on Apple, integrated emojis seamlessly into the iOS operating system, allowing them to be touched and located conveniently by users, making it a part of their products forever. So there you have it, the history of the emoji. A portion of mankind's history, arguably an important portion of it, which was born in the early 21st century before most 2026 middle schoolers like me were born. And that brings me to my second point. Are emojis really that popular? And the answer is a resounding yes, because according to Google and Gram.com, Google and Gram Viewer, the popularity of the word emoji rose from almost no occurrences in the 19th century and before to almost 0.00006% in the early 21st century. Now you might be saying 0.00006% is certainly not a lot, right? If you were in math, biology, chemistry, physics, and any other mathematics discipline, correct, you got 4 marks. Unfortunately, you just failed, because, according to Google and Wang again, for reference, the word TikTok up to 0.0000000 with 5 zeros, believe it or not, 16% in the same time frame. That is more than 35 times the popularity. And from the number of people in this room who I can hopefully correctly deduce, who are addicted to TikTok, me definitely not included, that is a crazy quantity of people who use emojis regularly. Now moving on, why and how are emojis so popular? And the answer is surprisingly simple, if you listen to the first part of my speech, because my topic is language behind emojis. And the answer is surprisingly simple as well. Emojis are popular because of their linguistical significance. There are 2 layers to this, and I'm going to be coincidentally talking about 2 different kinds of linguistical symbols. First is the pictograph, which represents a word or a phrase, hello. While second is an ideograph, which represents an abstract idea or concept. Emojis, coincidentally, as you might have probably guessed or maybe not guessed, are ideographs, meaning that they represent an abstract idea. Here's an example which shows how. Let's take the example of a smiley face, which, as you might have remembered, smiley face equals brain damage. But we have a better version of a smiley face here, actual smiley face. If you were to send a smiley face to a friend, that friend would not immediately think, someone's smiling right now, someone's so happy, let's go to a birthday party. I don't understand the last part, but still. They would think the abstract version of that. They'd be correlating it to an abstract, happy sentiment of positivity, of joyousness, of security. But they would not be thinking of a pictographic significance, and that's the key point. And this is all not to say that emojis cannot be pictographic, because it can be. Let's take the example of a stop sign. If I were to say, send a stop sign in one of the audience's way, it would shout stop at them. Of course, this is personification, but you get the idea. It sends the message stop, not the abstract idea of prohibition or of fear or of sheer terror at being screamed at by a teacher. So, emojis are both ideographic and pictographic. Why does that matter? It matters because scientists think that this ideographic and pictographic nature actually helps with the emoji's popularity. Believe it or not, surprise, surprise. Now, according to a study led by people at the University of Indiana in 2024, in a sample of 220 adults, adults who use emojis more often were often correlated as having higher emotional intelligence, while those who used emojis less were often perceived as having lower emotional intelligence and diagnosed with avoidant attachment, which means that they tended to isolate themselves in social interactions. AKA, they really don't like talking to other people. And that just shows how emojis can help decrease that social distancing. Not talking about COVID, but actual social distancing. Now moving on, this study is not a lone wolf, as reports from another study led by Dr. Wang, not Dr. Who from the movie, for those of you who are wondering, by the University of Texas actually shows that friends who use emojis more often, yes, friends, are often perceived as more attentive or caring, with participants rating 15 imaginary conversations and 7 ones not featuring friends who use emojis, and 8 ones featuring friends who use emojis. And before you're wondering, humans were not used in this experiment. These friends were imaginary AI chatbots. Now moving on, the results were quite surprising. On average, 4.43. These friends who used emojis got an average of 4.43 out of 5 in terms of how they were perceived as friendly or caring, while those who didn't use emojis and said, "Man, I'm not using that," got an average of 2.57 out of 5. That is a huge difference on a scale from 0 to 5, and just shows how important emojis can be by conveying that friendly tone. Well, there you have it, the story of the emoji and why it's popular. They are not just subtle space words. They're emotional, linguistic, inherently important natural cues to our conversation that can help make communication in the 21st century more emotionally intelligent, convenient, and frankly, more coherent. So next time someone sends you a doge, be sure and feel free to doge them right back. Thank you very much.